Good Tuesday morning, guys. Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness, guys. We're presented by Yes Realty Partners. Yes Realty Partners, a trusted name in the game, a brand and a business locally owned that will help you navigate the buying and selling process in this competitive real estate market. Yes, Realty Partners. Today's show, a good one. Transportation on the mind. We will assess, we will analyze and extrapolate the cost of transportation in Central Virginia and how it impacts affordable housing and how it impacts decision making when it comes to buying and selling a home, guys, here in our region. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Why don't we go to the studio camera? Judah, and let's welcome the distinguished gentleman to the program, Keith Smith. ¿Qué pasa?
¿Qué pasa, amigo?
How are you?
And our premier sponsor is Intrastate Service Company.
Yeah.
A home's best friend.
That's right. Well said, Keith Smith.
Yeah, I've been studying that all night long.
Intrastate Service Company, a home's best friend.
But if you're listening, please dig into Facebook later on. All our sponsors are awesome. Please, support them, and they give us the ability to be together 3 times a week now.
That's right.
So thank you for doing that.
So today is transportation's on the mind.
Today is transportation. Today was what I kind of want to do is kick it off, see what the feed comes in, just like we normally do on Tuesdays now, and see where the conversation goes. But as a direct result from your show yesterday and the conversation you had about the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission's infographic it sent out that the...
Nick, thank you for putting that together.
Nick's a rock star.
Yeah, tell me about Nick.
Nick is just a rock star. To pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody over at the commission, if you don't have an opportunity, Planning District Commission, Google it. Get on the website. Take a look at the awesome stuff that they're doing. I'm a little partial to it. I'm the treasurer for the commission, but I also chair the Regional Housing Partnership, which was the body that was primarily driving these 2 reports that have recently come out on that. But what I wanted to do is kind of follow up on a conversation I had, and I have to navigate this a little, delicately because
Sure.
I can't give too many details out. But I had a phone call yesterday afternoon from a client who watched the show. Husband and wife both work at UVA, one at the university, one at the hospital, and they live currently at Lake Monticello.
Okay.
And they wanted to. They drive 2 vehicles into town. 2 separate vehicles. They're roughly 15 miles apiece, so it's 30 miles per person. So they're putting in about 60 miles a day, coming in and out on this 20-day cycle. And I'll look at this and get some numbers in it. But what they wanted me to do is say, okay, if there was a piece of property they're looking over in Fry Springs,
Okay.
that had a 5 in front of it. Then they wanted to know if we go ahead and factor out our transportation costs, because we really don't look at that as real estate agents, and I think we should look at that. What that costs, in this case, they can actually walk to work, so it would be like 0. And you'll be surprised when we take a little bit of a deeper dive into it, how much per month. Now, we've had this conversation multiple times. The average buyer looks at how much house I can get per month. So I'm spending X amount of dollars. How much house can I buy for that? So to make a long story short, break down all these great numbers that I sent out to you that I'm going to have a conversation. But where they're currently at right now, they bought their home for $300,000.
Okay.
They put 20% down. So in both cases, we're not going to be dealing with private mortgage insurance.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later on the affordable housing component on that. But the current mortgage is 4.5% interest, right? That was 5 years ago is what they were in. They haven't refinanced it. I factored in their property tax, their home insurance, the HOA fees, because at the lake. And more importantly, there's a new number that I plug into my spreadsheet. There's another cost in my mortgage calculator that I use. And what we did is we took 2 cars, 30 miles a day, 2 ways at 60 miles. 60 times 58 cents a mile is $34 a day.
Okay.
Roughly $35 a day times 20 is $696. Make a very long story short, that equals $8,352. That's just the, and some folks will kick in, and this is where I hope the conversation goes a little bit longer.
Give us your take, Nick Erpy. We love you, Nicholas, on the show. He says he loves this topic.
The 0.58 cents
Uh-huh.
per mile doesn't include, it's depreciation, fuel.
Does it include wear and tear in the car?
It does. It does include wear and tear in the car. But what it doesn't include is what you're paying for the car.
There you go.
Right?
That's quite the cost.
That's quite the cost. So in this example, side-by-side example I'm trying to do, and the Erpies are going to probably correct me when I get some of the analysis a little bit sideways on it, but I was trying to do is break it down into as simplistic as I could. Right. So if we're saying that we're doing $8,000, so when you run that into your mortgage calculator, they're paying roughly $2,300 a month. So that's their mortgage payment, their tax, home insurance, HOA fee, and now this other cost, which we calculated is $600, roughly $700 a month. Now, what I did is I ran that analysis based. Same formula, same et cetera, that if you just take 10 miles a day, right, 2 cars, 10 miles a day, you're still paying for the cars, just doing all that stuff. And I won't go through the numbers, but that 300 jumps up to $500,000. Now that's at today's interest rates of 3%. It's roughly $2,300. Okay. So what they are able to do now. The question is, can I find something to buy there for $500? That's a whole different.
All right. So in a nutshell, let's put a bow on this here.
Putting a bow on it. The bottom line is they can buy $200,000 more house in Charlottesville with a 10-mile radius. In other words, they can drive within 10 miles to that and still keep their payment at $2,300. So it matters, right? And I kind of thought. It was hard for me to figure out how to make this into a nutshell and entertaining without being long-winded in it. But the bottom line is, when people talk about missing middle, when people talk about trying to increase density in Charlottesville, this is what happens, right? So if we increase more product, we have more homes to sell. If I'm not driving so far, and Mrs. Smith is, by the way, in Fredericksburg today on a meeting. Okay. And I took this topic specifically with Mrs. Smith being in the market because this is her argument to me for moving into town.
Sure. You'd save money.
And
we haven't even talked about the environmental benefits.
The point is I can afford more house for the same amount of money if I'm traveling a third of the distance or less. It's actually, if you take that to walking distance, that number jumps up to $550. So in other words, if I'm not doing any driving for work, I'm taking a bike or I'm walking into it. So there's a direct relationship to that. So again, that's kind of high level. I just wanted to kick off with that because you did a great job yesterday on tackling that. And usually that's kind of what we've been doing on Tuesdays, to throw a topic out there, see what kind of feedback we get.
Quentin Beckham says, good morning.
Good morning, Quentin.
You're absolutely right. Daniel Pettit, Mustache Dan Pettit says, let's not forget the value of time. I emphasize that, the opportunity cost of your time spent in a vehicle going to and from the epicenter of employment. Let's say you're going 45 minutes a day. Let's say, for the sake of math, let's say your commute is 30 minutes one way, an hour round trip. That's 5 hours a day. Okay, 5 hours a week, excuse me. 30 minutes one way, an hour round trip to work. That's 5 hours a week you're commuting to work. Let's say you work 50 weeks a year, you get 2 off for vacation. So 5 times 50, got the old calculator handy, that's 250 hours a year in transportation in your car going to and from the epicenter of employment, Charlottesville. 250 hours a year in a car going to work, divided by 40, that is 6.25 work weeks. 6.25 work weeks you're spending in a car as opposed to climbing the vertical career path of employment.
If the Erpies were sitting here, they would throw all that into our famous latte calculator, and actually in the money that we're talking about, what they're saving on that stuff to go into it. But I'll play a bit of devil's advocate on that.
Sure.
So I live outside of town, so it takes me 25 minutes plus.
Call 30.
Let's call it 30 minutes and do it.
6 40-hour work weeks you're spent in the truck.
But I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Please.
I love that time because it's me time. I get to think.
Yeah, you can decompress.
I think on the way in, I thought about what we're going to talk about today. This is a half an hour I spent on that. I also made 7 phone calls
sure.
on the way in. So I'm using that as a thing. But this is not typical. But you're 100% right. It's a loss of time, which this doesn't calculate. It doesn't calculate. The cost of the vehicle. It doesn't calculate lost time. It doesn't calculate, oh, by the way, you're living, I'll tell a true example. When Yonna and I moved to Lake Monticello in 1987, I had to come to Charlottesville to buy milk.
Right. So you're talking not only commuting to work, you're talking errands then.
So
now that's changed a little bit.
That's changed a lot because now I'm within a mile from that. But my point is if we're...
And you got El Mariachi, fantastic Mexican restaurant.
There you go. There you go.
We love you, Johnny Ornelas.
But the point I was trying to get at, so we're just looking at to and from work. What if you got to go to the doctors? What if you have to go to, whatever it is? So those costs just multiply up on that. So, when we took a look at that 10-mile radius, that's in this urban ring we keep on talking about on that stuff. But what kind of really stirred this on, there was a comment made, and I can't recall who it was, on last Tuesday that affordable housing shouldn't start with a 2.
Oh, Andre Xavier.
Yeah, Andre
Xavier.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that for a whole week. And then you spurred me on yesterday, or got my juices flowing yesterday, talking about that and looking at it from a transportation cost. So if you take a look at the units that the Land Trust sold at Spring Hill, and again, just to break it all down into quick numbers, it's roughly $250,000. I calculated 3% down. With our program, there's no PMI, blah, 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 blah. I've recalculated all the numbers. To make a long story short, that's exactly the same cost of a $150,000 house that is just 30 minutes out. So you're spending roughly $1,500 a month. So I'm spending $1,500 a month for a brand new construction home. I'm calculating in my travel time to UVA, 5 miles. I did it on Google Maps. It's 5 miles from these units to UVA. So it's actually less than the numbers that I was calculating at 10 miles on that end of it. So that's how come you can afford a $250,000 house if you calculate into that, because their total monthly nut is the same amount if you calculate in the thing. Is that making any sense to you?
Yeah, I think it's easy. It would be a little bit easier if we had a presentation tool of some kind for folks to understand. That's why we need to keep it a little broader strokes on a podcast.
Yeah. I just did math. That's
totally
all I did
today. So this is from Neil Williamson. This is a great comment. Neil, we love when you comment on the show, and I believe you're going to be here Friday. With Sean Tubbs. Neil Williamson says, for what it's worth, I believe the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission numbers include little or no transportation cost as the baseline.
Yeah.
This is not the case. The bigger issue is the chicken and egg problem of increased frequency and ridership. The dumbbell model is when transit works best. One area where lots of people live and one area where lots of people work. Our diffused development and employment patterns do not bode favorably for transit success.
So I'll pick that apart a little bit. So the first part of that was the comment I was trying to make is that this model doesn't calculate the fact that you're paying $100 or $200 or $300 for a car, right? That 58 cents does not include that in the calculations. I believe that's the point that Neil is trying to make. I may be wrong. He might want to chime in.
Yeah, give us a little more insight into that. This is from Johnny. You have to take in internet accessibility into being in the outer ring.
Absolutely, and this was, as you aptly said, this is a tough subject to crank out numbers on a podcast or a Facebook live program without slides on it. I just wanted to get to the point, just comparing apples to apples with this calculation based on this 58 cents a mile, that $150,000 house out. There's all kinds of different criteria why it may or may not work for somebody out there. Was you're able to buy a $250,000 house close into town. That's where that delta gets a little bit tighter. But Johnny's 100% right. You don't have internet, you're 100% right.
Well, and you talk about being efficient and using the time in the car during your transportation commute to take phone calls, listen to Real Talk, a fantastic podcast I've heard about. But what happens if you're in an area where you don't have service?
Yeah, well, I have an example of that.
Yeah.
When I drive
There's a dead spot.
There's not a dead spot, as you well know. There's 3 of them because
Right.
you've been on the phone with me on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's a dead spot in it. Look, I just wanted to break it down that all things being equal on what I was looking at here, that's where 150 can equal 250. You can pick up an extra $100,000 just from that portion of it. But you're 100% right. The transportation cost, the opportunity cost. If you're 30 minutes out, if you want to go to El Mariachi,
Yeah.
for dinner, you potentially are driving quite a distance to get their wonderful tacos and burritos.
We love El Mariachi. You guys are doing a hell of a job. In fact, Johnny, I saw the job posting that you have.
Yeah, I saw that
on Facebook. Very generous salary range. If you're looking to get in the workforce, El Mariachi is hiring.
There you go. Well, you're looking at Mrs. Smith wants me to get a job. Johnny, I might come on over there and help you with that.
El Mariachi is hiring. So what do we do about this? We don't have, Neil puts this in a nutshell, President Free Enterprise Forum. We don't have the density of people to truly support a robust transportation infrastructure or system.
That's what we talked about last Tuesday.
So the chicken and egg, to use Neil's words, if we don't have the density of people, let's put it in perspective. I was in Brooklyn this past weekend, in Williamsburg. And Williamsburg is a tamer version of Manhattan. It was so family friendly, it was freaking amazing. There was Ubers everywhere. There were taxis everywhere. We had the subway if we wanted. We did all 3 of them over the course of a weekend. When I got back into Charlottesville after the long weekend in Brooklyn, there was one Uber that was able to pick me up from the train station. I called Yellow Cab. Yellow Cab said, we'll be there in about 40 minutes.
I told you I'd pick you up.
It's okay. It's okay. I got the only Uber that was in the area. If you can't have Ubers and taxis, we certainly don't have subways. I wasn't going to rely on the bus then, and I realize I'm fortunate in that regard. Not everyone has that luxury. If we don't have the density of people, how can we support more robust and approachable transportation? Public.
Where in Brooklyn were you? You went
in Williamsburg.
What streets?
With Avenue.
Got it. So that, within 2 blocks of where you at, had more people than what we have in Charlottesville. No, but they're all 5-story. Oh, they're the brownstones over there. Whether the 5-story walk.
This is
okay.
Yeah, these are the apartments.
My section of Brooklyn was all 5-story walk-ups that I grew up in. Yeah. The point is, within a very short, small radius of where you're at,
I'll give you that.
You can eat up 50,000 very easily right. on that end of it. So. We talk about this all the time. We're 50,000 in the city of Charlottesville. We've never really got any decent numbers on how many people are in the urban ring.
What's Central Virginia? Maybe 250 to 300? It's got to be about.
So it depends on who you talk to, right? Okay. 250 to 300 is a spread.
In Central Virginia.
I would go with that spread. Neil would probably know way more than.
He's watching. He's got some comments for us.
Than me. But even if you call it 300, and other than the 50,000, this 300, whatever we're talking about, is this 30 minutes out. This was the point I was trying to make with the traffic engineers, and the VDOT guy was trying to make with me. These people, they're driving in anyway, right? So they're going to come into the center work, but Probably going to get into a little trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
I love when that happens. I love when you start sentences that way.
Yeah, because here comes Smith.
It's like Nicholas and Alex, we were talking about this. I don't want to talk politics, but
well, we don't talk politics.
I know we don't.
We don't talk religion.
So what do we got here? What's your comment?
So, somebody was asking me, I had this client in from Arizona, and somebody was trying to ask me, they coming from Phoenix to here, one huge metropolitan area by standards for us to a small metropolitan area. They were trying to understand how come we didn't have certain things here, right? Certain mass transit and so forth and so on. I said, look, the way I kind of look at Charlottesville area, and this is really going to get myself into trouble, so you're going to have to walk me back on this. It's kind of like an 18-year-old person, right, or a 16-year-old person. They think they're not quite grown up yet, right? Yeah. And they have these great visions and goals and aspirations. Yeah. But life really hasn't kind of grabbed them by the tail a little bit. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to be this middle-aged person that has had a little bit of life underneath them, right? Does that make any sense?
That makes sense.
And that's what it is. So we're trying, and I do this all the time, right? People maybe get upset with me. I compare us to Portland. I compare us to Seattle. I compare us to other cities that are already, middle-aged, right? They have a lot of life under them. They had a lot of experiences underneath their belt to grab from, to learn from. We don't have that. We're kind of a small area, and we got some, tackling some big problems or struggles, affordable housing being one, or not enough inventory being another, which to me are together, that some of these other jurisdictions have the same problem, but they just have a little bit more money. They have a little bit more resources. Does that make any sense?
Sure. This is from current president of CAR, fabulous dude, Quentin Beckham. Good morning, Quentin Beckham.
Thank you for chiming in.
Quentin, are you back in Charlottesville?
He's enjoying his bike ride.
You're missed, QB. QB says this: the Brooklyn density per square mile is 36,732 people.
There you go.
Charlottesville city total population, 47,000 and change.
So let's say every square mile equal. It's just pretty...
somewhat comparable, but thank you for that clarification, Quentin. Neil Williamson, I may be dating myself, fellas. The tipping point for Metro and D.C. was when the federal government stopped paying for parking and started giving out fare cards. UVA via UTS does this on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
UTS is a University Transit Service. Yeah. I remember while I was a student at UVA, 2000 to 2004, you could get just about anywhere in the city of Charlottesville riding UVA Transit. Yeah. In fact, I remember as a first year living in Dabney 101 Old Dorms, hopping a bus, UTS, to the Harris Teeter and buying $9.99 cases of natural light, and then getting back on the bus and going to Dabney 101 to University of Virginia. So he's basically saying UVA, in some ways, with the student ID card, has a transportation service that allows you to get around the area.
And I know for sure that there is a transportation roundtable that's working on this. But the reality of it is, how many people actually use these services, and how many people will use these services to get to and from work? And to go back to what Neil was saying, if everybody's out in the periphery, is everybody out just drive to disqualify or fly to qualify? You need, it's a business, right? You need to have a certain amount of fare, a certain amount of ridership in order to fund whatever they're going to create. And it's back to the comment about, with the Brooklyn, let's call it the same amount of people per square mile, right? If you take that number, 30, 40,000 people per square mile, and times it by 10, we're a lot, we're substantially higher than where we currently are at 50,000. And now that becomes, this is what we want Charlottesville to be and all that kind of great stuff. But Neil's point and Quentin's point and everybody's point and Matthew Gilligan's point about increasing density will help that. But the bottom line is, if you take a look on it, there is no option other than the land trust at the moment to buy a brand new construction 1,700 square foot house, yada, 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 for $250,000. Oh, by the way, that the builder's losing money. So we're putting $21,000 worth of subsidies into it. There's down payment assistance. There's all this magic that has to happen just to hit that number, right, on that end of it. And all I wanted to compare to it is the monthly payment, that it's doable, but there's so many pieces of the puzzle that have to come together to get there.
So this is a legitimate statement. Neil, you'll appreciate this statement. Quentin, you'll appreciate this statement. Cindy Robertson from Loring Woodruff, I'll get to your comment. Paul McCarter, I will get to your comment as well. Is Paul Town?
Oh, God, I should know that.
Let me do a quick little search here.
Paul will chime in. I think it's Avenue, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's Avenue.
I think it's Avenue.
Well played.
I think it's Avenue.
It's Avenue. It is
I'm
Avenue.
on the board. I should know this
Avenue
stuff.
Realty. It is Avenue. Well played. We love when you guys watch a show.
Absolutely. Makes me better, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, and they hold us accountable.
They do.
I mean, that's the tough thing about doing this. You see, you will be held accountable when folks are watching. So, population, this is from Neil Williamson, president of Free Enterprise Forum. This is a good one. The population density of Albemarle County is 153 people per square mile. I'll repeat these stats again. Population density for Albemarle County, 153 people per square mile. City of Charlottesville, 4,819 people. 4,819 people per square mile. Fluvanna, 95 people per square mile. Greene County, 130 people per square mile. Louisa County, 74 people per square mile. And Nelson County, 32 people per square mile. Obviously, the densest portion of Central Virginia is the city of Charlottesville. And those numbers from President of Free Enterprise Forum, Neil Williamson, back those up.
Yeah, but does he know, or can we determine how many people are in the urban, quote-unquote, urban ring? Because that's where the public transportation connection is going to happen between the 10 square mile of Charlottesville and this urban ring. Now, there are options, right? Jaunt does a great job. You can actually take a ride share from Lake Monticello into town. You can do that.
You can do that in Crozet, too.
You can do it in Crozet.
I think you can do that in Greene.
They call it the connector, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
You can do all that stuff.
Do you know how much that costs?
I do not know how much that costs.
Okay.
But the service is available. Now, if it's chosen or not is a different story. But I'm trying to, in my feeble way, to get back to this promotion of this more density or this upzoning, and a shout out to Matthew Gilligan, and people can watch. There's going to be a planning commission meeting tonight on 2 projects that Piedmont Housing Alliance is going to come in here right outside of Charlottesville. That would potentially add about 100, if it gets approved and goes through, about 150 affordable housing is. I can't remember the exact numbers. I'd have to dig it up. I don't have the numbers in front of me. But the bottom line is there's a project running through the city council. Please Google it. You can get into it. That would increase affordable housing, would increase the density of opportunities for people either to rent or buy or whatever the development plan is. I haven't had a chance to dig into it. I'll do it this evening because I'm going to join the planning commission. I'm sure Neil will have some specifics in it as he chimes in.
So Neil, you're going to like this comment. Quentin, you'll like this comment too. If the upzoning of the city of Charlottesville becomes a reality, we will have a more densely populated city. That's safe to say, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. We upzone the city. We create more housing stock, more housing opportunity. The population will increase. If the population increases, a byproduct of increased population is potentially a stronger customer base or rider base to support more robust public transportation. That's safe to say. Cindy Robertson, Loring Woodruff, Here's her comment. I've been saying that part of the affordable housing initiative should be working with surrounding areas for improved public transit. Buses are one of the most cost-effective ways to reduce transportation costs since the bulk of required infrastructure, roads, already exist. Paul McCarter of Avenue responds to Sydney. I've been saying this for a while also. It's not realistic to make Charlottesville property affordable. Need to make it easier to commute at a reasonable price. A hub and spoke model would work great for this situation.
So I would encourage both these listeners or viewers to tie into the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, particularly the Regional Housing Partnership. I made a motion 3 years ago or more to create this. And the reason we chose this body of the Planning District Commission is because we have representation from all 6 jurisdictions. Louise is having this conversation about affordable housing and figuring out this spoke concept. There's this thing called a Regional Transit Authority. You guys can Google that. It runs under also the commission, and the term regional is very important because each one of the jurisdictions are there and their representation. And these conversations are actually happening. By the way, all open to the public. I happen to chair one of them. And I'm going to give a shout out to Sean and Neil. Other than Sean and Neil,
few, if any,
they're the only two
only
two public that join it. And we have we instituted a thing, called roundtable discussions. Please, all the meetings are
should put those meetings on this set.
I don't get to make that call, so.
That's how you would raise the profile.
Yeah, well, I've suggested it, but that's unfortunately where my chairmanship stops.
Understood. Sidney Robertson, this could be especially effective up on 29 in Greene County from Lake Monticello and Waynesboro. Not easy, but seems there are no easy solutions to the affordable housing crisis in Charlottesville. And Paul responds, there is also a stigma that people have about the surrounding counties. As an example, a lot of people don't realize how good the schools are in the surrounding counties because everyone thinks you have to be in Almar or Charlottesville City schools.
So that school question is extremely easy to answer. All you got to do is Google it, be the source of the source, and you'll actually find the ratings for them. I'm not going to quote chapter and verse on them, and Paul can probably put something in his feed because I know he's a sharp guy and he knows where the place is to look at that. But we encourage clients, buyers or sellers, particularly buyers, take a look at this. We give them the website. I can't recite it off the top of my head, where they can go ahead and find out where the rating. And he's spot on. The surrounding schools. I mean, both my children went to Flavanna, so I can speak a little bit about that.
Flavanna schools have come a long, long way, right?
In my opinion, they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Quentin, thank you for the more updated info. And I have to confess, I'm surprised about the greater density of green. Though I sit and think about it, it makes perfect sense. Bill McKenzie, the roads in Charlottesville are in deplorable condition, and the narrowing of the Belmont Bridge will not help us. Daniel Pettit, Mustache Dan, we have done the survey on where a park and ride into Charlottesville from, say, Flavanna, Louisa Green would work.
We have one in Flavanna. I helped set it up.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then he asked this question. Does UVA have a list of who works at UVA and lives in certain jurisdictions?
I don't know the answer to that.
I would think they would, though.
Well, I happen to sit on...
Oh, so you don't think UVA does?
I would be surprised if they did.
Employees in which jurisdictions they live in?
I would be very surprised. I mean, they probably
you would know.
They probably have that information. I don't think anybody ever digested it. But I took a note on that because my next meeting I'm going to ask that question.
This is from Jonathan. I'm going to mess up your last name. Let's call you Jonathan K. He says UVA before the pandemic had a bus that would drive into Buckingham and the Scottsville area to pick up employees and drive them to the University of Virginia. I know because I was on it.
So some great solutions, great outside of thinking the box. I'm going to kind of pivot it a little bit. The other thing that has to happen, and I think it's happening slowly, our mindsets need to change, right? This whole independence, I need my own car.
Oh, well, Neil, this is perfect for Neil. Quentin, I'll get to that. Paul and Sydney, I'm about to tag you into a conversation with the fabulous Quentin Beckham here in a matter of moments. This is from Neil. Did either of you ride transit into the studio today? Why or why not?
That's exactly right.
Well said. Well played, Neil Williamson.
Yeah.
So I did not.
I did not either.
Why I could not is where I particularly live in eastern Albemarle County. There is no public transportation.
Well, even if there was, it has to hit our schedule.
Yeah. I mean, the closest thing I could do would be get in my car drive somewhere on Pantops,
So
figure out where to park my car and get on the bus, and then I'd have to leave my car there all day and hope it's safe.
So I have a hybrid to that.
Okay.
I take my truck in. Actually, if you showed you a picture of my truck, I got my bike on the back of it.
Uh-huh.
I walked from my office to here.
Oh, that's a good hybrid.
I have another meeting later on today. I'm going to take, it happens to be something I don't need to be in a suit. I've put a change of clothes with me. I'm going to get into my shorts and t-shirt and ride my bike. It's over at Belvedere. I need to go do something, so I'm going to get a couple of them. I'm going to get a little bit of workout in. I'm going to go visit a client that I haven't seen in a while. The health is not doing well. Spend some time with them. I'm going to ride a bike over there, say hi, and turn around and come back. But yeah, actually, it's funny. I asked my CPA the other day. I'm in the market to get an electric bike. So if I get an electric bike and park it at the office at Studio X,
Are you asking, is it a write-off?
There you go.
And what did he say?
He's working on it. He's going to let me know next week.
Okay, so wait, hold on. So your concept is put the electric bike on the back of the truck.
Oh, I'm actually going to keep it at the office.
Oh, you would keep it at the office?
Yeah, sure.
And then,
so I'll get one of the rads that
Yeah.
Matthew Gilligan has.
It's about, what, 3K?
No, much less than that. You can get an entry level for $1,000. The one I'm looking at is $1,500.
So you would drive your truck to X. Yes, Realty Partners located at X Park, Studio X.
So Yonna and I do a hybrid, right? We talk about our schedules. We see what's going on, right? So like today, Yonna's in Fredericksburg on a meeting. I'm here. But yesterday, we took one vehicle in, right? Because I had meetings around the downtown. Yonna had. So we just take the time to look at our schedule.
Uh-huh.
I had a showing at a certain period of time yesterday. So I had my truck. Yonna stayed in the office. She had another showing. She took my truck and went out. So we work on this from a hybrid perspective on that end of it. But the reality is I live 15 miles away.
I would love to see you do real estate showings on the rad electric bike.
I'd do that.
Oh, I have no doubt you would.
I would do that.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Now, on the rad electric bike, you doing real estate showings.
But the reason I'm looking at it is, as you well know, when I walk from the office to here, at this weather, this is not sunny, this is not 75 degrees, zero humidity,
Yeah.
365 days a year.
And if you're on the rad electric bike, you're going to have to wear a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to mess up your hair.
I haven't thought that one through.
Yeah, and you like your hair to be good when you're out in public.
Yeah, but I think the cool factor of being on me and Matthew Gilligan on the cool factor.
Right. Gilligan, Matthew, you getting some props today?
I saw him the other day. Gave him a.
Was he on the bike?
He was on the bike, man. Yeah.
Did he recognize you?
No, but I said hello to him.
So you honked the horn and stuck your hand
No.
out the window?
No, I was walking and I was going, go, Matthew, go. And he just kind of looked at me, yeah, whatever. It just kept on going.
Paul says, imagine a park and ride pickup at the Lake Monticello Clubhouse and Food Line in Fluvanna County.
So there is one.
There's a park and ride.
So
At Lake Monticello Clubhouse?
No.
Okay.
So there.
Because that's the most densely populated area of Fluvanna County.
Yes, sir.
You taught me that.
Yes, sir.
4,300 rooftops?
Roughly 4,300, yeah.
Okay.
So
we're talking probably 10,000 people at the lake, right?
There is. Unfortunately, again, go on the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission website. We run the park and ride for this region. There's a button there. You can click on it. It can tell you all the stats. It was about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I petitioned the Fluvanna County Board of Supervisors. There is a park and ride right next to the Food Line. Unfortunately, I drive past it every day.
And no one's there.
Nobody's ever there.
Yeah. And you attribute that to?
Attributed to exactly the point that I was trying to make and Neil makes.
It's not consistent or reliable enough.
No, it's a mindset thing.
Ah.
Right? It's an independence thing. Prime example.
Hello, Vanessa Parkhill.
My mother, you took the train up to New York?
Yeah, so pleasant. 106 one way, $106.
About 7 hours, 6 hours?
6 hours and 15 minutes. And you know what? The train up was so much more pleasant than the train down.
Oh, why
and you
is-
called it, the train down was 33 minutes late.
Yeah. That's because you didn't take the express.
That's true.
Right.
I took the, is it the Crescent?
Yeah, the Crescent's always late.
The Crescent. And then the way up, it was the
So talk about getting something right on transportation.
train was pleasant.
No, Neil will correct me if I'm wrong. This was an initiative put together by the state of Virginia, and so this Northeast Corridor train
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
comes from Lynchburg. Excuse me. Comes from Lynchburg. Allergies are kicking in here.
Sure.
Comes in from Lynchburg.
If I got a I got a Ricola right here.
Oh, I would love one.
Would you like a Ricola?
I would love a Ricola. You hook up
You
a
gotta
brother.
say,
Ricola!
Here's a Ricola for you, my friend. I won't touch it. I'll give it to you in the wrapper.
You're a good man. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. I have more Ricolas here if you need
So the reality of it is that the Crescent,
Yeah.
why does they call it the Crescent? It starts in New Orleans and ends, I think, in Boston or something like that.
Okay.
The Northeast Corridor starts from Lynchburg, so it's all, I was giving you tips on it, always is on time leaving out of Charlottesville,
Because it's from Lynchburg.
and it's always on time coming out of, we could take it up to,
Penn Station?
no, Stamford, Connecticut, because
Okay.
our oldest daughter lives in Norwalk. But to go back to this mindset thing that needs to change. Now, Yonna and I are trying to do this, right? We're having an internal fight, right? I want to stay out in Lake Monticello because I have very specific reasons for that. Yonna wants to move into town, and like I said, I hope you're not watching the show today because I'm not selling myself too well on staying. But my mother and father, God love them, they want to go up and visit my daughter. It's a beautiful train ride, as you well know. Reasonably priced. You have Wi-Fi the whole way up.
Right.
You can take a nap. You can go to the bar, have a drink, bring a Bodo's lunch. And
Yeah, that was your idea.
Yep.
Your tip. Bring your own food.
Bring your own food. You know, it's like a little picnic on the way up to that. You get off at the train station, and my daughter picks you up and goes in. They will not do that. They will drive because, well, we need our independence. And I went, oh, guys, you're kind of missing it. You know, Yaz has a second car that they don't use. Do you have that car? Oh, no, I can't drive somebody else's car. So there's a lot of, rethinking, recalibration of one's thinking. And that's what Yonna and I are personally trying to do. We literally map out our schedule. And it changes day to day because of the business we're in, right? It's just what it does. But we change it every day, and we have a meeting, morning cup of coffee meeting, and go, what's your schedule for today? What's my schedule for today? Can we take one car in? Absolutely. Okay, great. This is what I got to do. I got to see Jerry this morning, so forth and so on. And that's the thinking that has to change a little bit.
It sounds like a branding and marketing campaign.
Oh, yeah.
You got to manage the perception of transportation.
Yeah.
Neil Williamson said, I've heard transit called loser cruiser. Not a great brand position. He's 100% right. This is a brand challenge here. Then he says Meredith Richards gets major kudos for increased heavy rail in Charlottesville. Meredith Richards is a train advocate.
Yes.
Or lobbyist,
Yep.
we could say. I just tagged Meredith on the stream here. That would be a great guest for Real Talk.
I'm on.
Meredith Richards. Quentin. I agree with Paul McCarter and Sidney Robertson. Transportation and its availability also has a huge effect on things like brittle poverty, which is when a family is just one transmission breakdown from homelessness.
Oh, totally.
As it takes that out of the equation for people that have to commute, making affordable housing more available to those who have lower AMI. Well said, Quentin. He also adds, for example, to have housing be more affordable, you need one, more housing, and two, better accessibility to the affordable housing that already exists, but is a greater number of miles from the job. Quentin Beckham.
Well, we'll put an example to it, is the Stanley Martin Spring Hill homes at this 243.
We love you, Stanley Martin.
We love you. There's two bus stops right in front of the project, and fortunately, the ones that we built and some if everybody has vehicles, but one of the decision-making process of the buyers of the affordable housing buyer is well, if my vehicle breaks down, I can always hop on a bus, right? So that is a kind of a real-world tie-in to what Quentin's trying to say.
More comments coming in here.
Sure.
This is from. Oh man, I'm sorry. Can I call you Jackson? I'm gonna call you Jackson. Just because I'm not sure how to say the name here. I think it's Jackson. Jerry, bring up the topic of a private business being the transportation answer or solution. Do you think that could ever happen?
Well, technically, that's what Jaunt is, right? It's not a governmental. It's a nonprofit, if I remember correctly. I may have that wrong, but it's not a government, right? It's not a jurisdiction. So Jaunt is some other NGO, right, or some non-governmental organization that is providing that. Look, because we only have 50,000 or whatever number that we have, one jurisdiction alone can't do this. So it has to be regional. B, it has to be a PPP, public-private partnership. You can't, and actually I'm going to call it 4 Ps, public-private partnership with a nonprofit in the middle of it, because you're probably going to need a nonprofit to help put this together. But that's what has to happen. But look, if the mindset doesn't change, right? So if we put a bus route coming from downtown, coming from Lake Monticello, 4 stops in Lake Monticello. I'm just picking numbers off the top of my head. 4 buses from Lake Monticello that comes into downtown Charlottesville or UVA or whatever it is, and they run 4 buses a day. The question is, will anybody ride them? Are we going to end up?
Well, the mindset is changing as millennials and younger make up more of the potential ridership foundation. Millennials and younger are less car-centric minded and focused.
Until they have kids. Then that changes, because I've seen that firsthand.
That's a fair comment.
That's
a good response to
it
that.
becomes very different once they start having children.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you watch them, they get the big minivan with the first kid, right, because they want to super protect them. And
Sure.
the second kid comes around, I don't need that much, and they get a little bit smaller. But my previous comment was, it took me to get that park, and this is what I'm about to say is not about me.
Okay.
I just want to put it into the energy that it takes.
Into perspective.
Thank you. That park and ride.
Yeah.
I went in front of the Board of Supervisors multiple times, had one-on-one meetings with VDOT, one-on-one meetings with the owners of the property, because it's on private property, to go ahead and allow to do that, get the signings, get everybody on board with it. It was hundreds of hours of work to get there. And oh, by the way, there's a staff member that has to manage it from the commission to go and do that. And when I drive past there and see no cars, you kind of say, so what the hell?
You get demoralized.
Why the hell did I do all this work for?
Yeah,
So
but we still give Keith props, guys.
No.
for the effort.
I'm not saying that for that reason.
No, but come on, viewership and listenership, we got to give him props for that. You know how much time he puts into this?
But my point is if we go through this, are people going to use it? It's all great ideas, but are people going to use it? Versus, and I'm going to turn this back a little bit to something I took a note down I want to talk about a little bit later about Crozet in the missing middle, and this conversation that you keep on throwing at me about Albemarle County on that end of it. But if this project's approved, right out, it's by the core of downtown Charlottesville. It's over by the old Maca building. And it gets approved. All that stuff is walkable. All that stuff is bikeable. All that stuff is on the current transit system on that. If you have a vehicle, you're traveling less than a couple of miles to go anywhere. So to go back to the concept of more is better, in this case it actually is, right? And it may pull some of the folks that are coming out and the further areas to come in and keep them off the roads to a certain extent. So I think this, I keep on wrapping this around about increasing density, this missing middle, this upzoning. I'm trying to paint a picture verbally. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of it, but I'm trying to do that.
Nick Erpy, I would love to hear Keith and Quentin's take on something more European, like a green intertrain, hop-on trolley, and electric mopeds, cut down on the cars and the independents, but only slightly. Would it?
So what he's talking about, we talked about this on Tuesday, last Tuesday. In Paris, you can't go to certain sections of the city unless you have a sticker on your vehicle.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah. But it's Paris, right? It's Brooklyn. It's 30,000, 40,000, whatever it is, per square mile on folks, right? Not 50,000 or 40,000, whatever the number is, in 10 square miles. It's just, how does that work? Can you imagine if you wanted to come here that you couldn't come downtown unless you had How would the folks on the downtown mall, the business on downtown?
They wouldn't go for that.
Yeah, how would they react?
I mean, heck, the downtown mall, the Downtown Business Owners Association, which I'm a part of, I'd say is one of the bigger lobbying organizations in Charlottesville, was vehemently opposed to closing Heather Highway to through traffic,
Sure.
and very much championed the creation of the new parking garage in the Guadalajara Lucky 7 location that has since been put on ice, at least for the time being.
So when you look at some of these other cities, just to follow up on Nick's comment, some of these cities are traditional grid patterns, even though Paris isn't, but traditional grid patterns. And I think what he's proposing is, one street is shut down to vehicles one way, only local folks that live on it. Those would be bikes and mopeds. One coming back the other way is vehicles. You see some cities doing that in the United States. DC does that a little bit, if I remember correctly. I think there's some parts of Manhattan that are trying to do the same thing. But look, all options are on the table here, but there's a reason why the term drive to qualify came about. It's because there's no product available, there's no homes available at this point. What I was trying to architect, and I probably didn't do a good job of it this early in the beginning of the show, is this one buyer that I have. They financially can do this. They're in a very good position in their lives, but they're going to move out of one area and come into an area where they're going to walk to work. Now, they're empty nesters now, right? Their life situations are very different than other folks, but that's what they're going to do. And they're going to spend the same amount of money. Matter of fact, they want to do a 40-year mortgage, which...
40-year mortgage.
Yeah, I know that'll make your head...
I just find it crazy.
Yeah.
Mustache Dan Pettit, Roger Voisinay. We'll get to your comment here in a matter of moments.
Roger's a rock star.
A lot of agents watching. Daniel Pettit. I worked with a professor at James Madison University who never had a car and decided to move to Charlottesville. What I did was ride the transit buses for 1 week and learn all the bus stops and all the homes available off the bus stops. I think all the people who make transportation decisions in Charlottesville need to take the time to ride the buses. Daniel also asks, I love your comments, Dan Pettit. Dan also says, how many people are using the Charlottesville buses? Are the buses mostly empty most of the time? Would love to hear Keith's take on that.
Well, I'm going to give Dan a shout out. When Yes Realty Partners did the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, he came and visited us at the X-Wing on his bike.
That's legit. Does Dan live in the city of Charlottesville?
He lives close enough. I won't.
Okay, yeah.
I won't, but he lives close enough within this urban ring inn, right?
That's legit, Dan. You rode the bike?
He rode the bike to see us and donate.
Dan Pettit. Let's give Dan Pettit the props.
So these things are doable. Folks just need to rethink a little bit. Now, it's where Yonna and I are in our lives, right? It's a little easier for us, right? We can get our schedule. We don't have...
You don't have kids in the house.
We don't have kids in the house.
Yeah, it's not like you're bringing a ton of groceries or diapers or picking up at swim practice or soccer practice anymore.
Yeah, I was on the phone with Zena Joy, right? Who with Tao Insurance, who handles my personal insurance, and we're going.
Liza the dog got off her leash and is now on set. This isn't technically supposed to happen right now.
Liza,
Judah, can we get somehow Liza on camera right there with Keith?
Liza, I love you.
This is a blooper waiting to happen. So Keith, and I won't say who the guest was, Keith obviously loves dogs.
I do.
There was one guest that we had on this seat that was terrified of dogs. Liza got off her leash, walked up to him, and he said, "Oh, jeez, look at this. Liza's on set. Can you get her somehow up so we can see the beautiful dog?"
I'm not going to pick her up.
Okay.
Let me see the beautiful way.
There's Liza the
Okay,
dog
Lisa,
on set.
get Liza.
She's the I Love CVille mascot. All right, J-Dubs, we got to get a little. He doesn't want his suit all haired up over here, J-Dubs.
Go. I'll get you a bone later.
Roger.
Nothing like a love of a.
Oh,
go
Liza's
ahead.
amazing. Liza, you're supposed to be on your leash. Roger Voisinay, Remax, right?
Yeah.
Finally seeing something in image form. I've been telling this to clients for decades.
Yeah.
If the IRS allows 55 cents per mile, then you know it is a real cost.
Yeah. It's 58 cents.
Yeah, 58 cents.
And Roger, you're 100% right. So I think the world of Roger. He's a pro, been in the business. He's just an absolute pro. I literally got chills when he said that. And the reason I got chills is now all this hard work that we've been doing in the background is paying off. When somebody like Roger makes a comment like that, that makes it all worthwhile.
Roger, we love when you watch and comment on the show. You know, we got to throw this to you here. Is it UVA that's got to lead the charge?
I enjoy every moment I spend with you in the
Same.
phone.
Feel the same way, homie.
Thank you for what you do for me.
That's our pleasure. Should it be UVA leading the charge? They have the money, they have the resources, and they're the largest employer in the region.
You're trying to walk me into...
Well, I'm going to throw this to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll phrase it a different way. Neil, this is for you. This is for everybody that's watching. So UVA's made this commitment to affordable housing, right?
Okay.
The commitment to affordable housing, you know as better than anyone.
Yep.
Aren't you on the...
I am.
Is it the committee? Is that the right term?
So I'm on the community engagement team.
Okay, community engagement team for UVA and affordable housing. Mm-hmm. Okay. We know that commitment, while is genuine and it's authentic, it won't have an impact on the area for about 10 years.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Should that commitment and should that community and engagement team, instead of being focused on something that's 10 plus years down the road, be focused on a transportation solution that could be a reality much sooner?
So you can never have this housing discussion we're having without transportation in the mix. We talk about this all the time. There's actually 4 things that need to be talked about simultaneously. The actual production of the product, right? Increasing density, rezoning, red tape into green tape, transportation. What's the 4th one? We talk about it all the time. Healthcare.
Yeah.
And education.
Okay.
You can't separate one from the other. This is my opinion, for what it's worth. I've got my plate's a little bit full with the stuff that I'm on. I think, and I may be wrong, and Neil can double check it, or maybe you can double check it online. I believe UVA is part of the Regional Housing Transit Authority. I think they are. I don't know that for a fact. I have to double check that because I'm kind of in trying to be on this side of the table at the moment. But I can tell you in all our meetings, we do that. The question you were asking me is, should UVA take lead in that?
I mean, UVA could incentivize one of its schools.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking...
This is a hard conversation for me to have with you in live at this point because there's some stuff that I'm privy to that I have to be very careful about talking about it because I made a commitment not to do that.
Okay.
So I'm trying...
I mean, they know you host a talk show 3 days a week, right?
I don't even think they know what I do, to be honest with you. Their heads explode when I talk to them.
Okay. And why is that?
Well...
Okay, I don't want to put you in a tough spot. I apologize.
No. I got it. Give me a little bit of moments. Let me see if I can figure out how I can wiggle this in without getting myself...
Totally get it.
I don't have a problem getting myself into trouble.
We know that.
This would be crossing the line, so I just need to be a little careful with that. Let's put it this way. I'm the only person on that team that's not an academic.
Okay.
Right? So if you can stitch that together in that beautiful
and say it out loud, or should I not? Because I've stitched it together.
Yeah, so let's...
So you're saying you're the business-focused individual.
So technically, I'm there as the chairperson of the Regional Housing Partnership.
Okay.
So let's focus on that. Regional Housing Partnership is the 6 jurisdictions. I chair that. It's a governmental body on all that stuff. That body has profit, nonprofit, government, UVA at the table, the people who we serve, right? I'm officially there wearing that hat. But everybody else on that team is academias. They're from UVA.
I'm with you.
On a communication team.
I've made the connection that
on a communication team. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So it's not a struggle, but there's certain things I'm constantly hitting in a meeting about how one should communicate with the public and how one should communicate with the general thing. And
can you imagine a scenario where UVA uses its most precious commodity, which is its students, who can work for free and create a program or a curriculum to devise a transportation infrastructure system?
That's happening.
Okay.
So we just wrapped up the report at the commission. There's interns from UVA, from the Baton School, in different areas. They come and do internships.
Okay.
And help. And as anybody who's ever done an internship, you realize you don't get paid. It's kind of close to free as
It's
free. It's
like
free as can get.
Indentured servitude.
Yeah. There's these poor folks.
But it's called putting in your dues.
Putting in dues. And actually just hired one that's that actually the poor guy is going to be in control of me.
Oh, wow. That's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. You know that well. I'm trying to say something and figure out how I can do it without getting myself into too much trouble. So it's been my experience with UVA that they struggle with understanding why this is a concern of, that's the wrong word. I'm trying to figure out a way to do this. They honestly want to help. They just don't understand how, and they don't understand why they have to help. Is that making any sense?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm helping with the conversation. In that, at least I'm trying anyway, with the conversation. And I'm trying not to throw anybody under the bus or do anything like that. But you know, their world is so wrapped up in academia, and these are all super smart people, way smarter than I'll ever be, right? But they don't they're trying to navigate this world, and I've been fortunate to visit other cities that have major universities in it, and I never understood since 1987 why there was not more of a connection of what they call town and gown, right? Where there's it just seems to be this separation of thinking. President Ryan is doing a great job in trying to bring that back in. So we're trying to reverse many years of that. And I hope I navigated that well.
I think you navigated that well. This question just came in. Dan, what percentage of time do you think these academic people spend on this team working for solutions short and long?
Oh, quite a bit, actually. I can tell you quite a bit. I know because I'm part of it. They spend quite a bit of time on it. They're generally putting 150% into it. It's just not their world.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if maybe the approach is this, get a Central Virginia-wide transportation system.
Well, that's what this.
I know, but funded and backed by UVA, as opposed to figuring out the donation of land and the creation of affordable housing. Because if you get the transportation around the Central Virginia region,
but Jerry,
the housing will follow.
But I believe this in my heart and soul. You cannot just do one item.
Yeah, we get that.
But you have so.
The housing option that they're doing is 10 plus years away. You asked me this question. I've been thinking about this for so long. Are the affordable housing efforts and initiatives keeping up with the invisible hand of the free market? I've been thinking about that nonstop since you asked that question. And what did we both decide?
Yeah.
We both decided they were not, right?
Yeah.
Not even close, right?
Well, yeah. The reality of it is, yeah, man. What I don't want to do is I don't want anybody to stop giving up, right? I don't want anybody to take this conversation that we're having at the moment to say, well, nothing's going to happen. We're not going to do this. Neil, Dan, everybody who's watching this, to include myself, that, there's some excellent people working on this. Are we making the progress that I want to make? Absolutely not. But I will tell you, in the last 3 years, for whatever reason, the conversation has gotten forefront. When President Ryan, when UVA says this is a priority to us, now they need help navigating that. They just don't know it, right? They're just not what they. This is like Keith Smith saying, hiring me or bringing me in to run a university. I wouldn't know the first freaking thing to do. I wouldn't know anything about it. I got kicked out of high school. What the hell do I know about higher education? This stuff I know.
Yeah, this stuff you know.
And they're just trying to navigate this. Look, here's the reality of it, and I'll continue to get myself into trouble. There's two things that UVA needs to wrap its brain around, and it hasn't gotten there because it can't figure it out. Two T words: trust and transparency.
Okay, I'm with you.
Sorry about
Trust,
that.
No problem.
Trust and transparency.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to get their brain around.
Okay.
And that's hard for them because of the comment that you made. Well, just have UVA pay for everything. Hold it.
They think the community sees UVA as having.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
I know you are. Pockets so deep that the money never runs dry.
Yeah, sure.
And to a certain extent, when you have an endowment of many billions of dollars, the perception is the University of Virginia.
But the problem is that's
almost like the Federal Reserve of Charlottesville. Yeah. That endowment money can't be applied to everything. It's earmarked for certain initiatives. Yeah. Is that what you were going to say? Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
It's not just a bank account.
Yeah. Well, then you got the foundation, right? Which is a whole different other thing.
You want to give them some insight into the foundation?
It's just the foundation's a foundation. This would be like I Love Charlottesville sets up a foundation for real estate transactions. It's a separate thing. Most people don't know if a piece of property in a jurisdiction is owned by the foundation, it has to go through the normal rezoning process. If it's owned by that university,
it does not.
It does not.
And if it has to go through the university,
it's a state-owned entity.
Right. Does it pay taxes if it's owned by the university?
Yeah, that I don't have an answer to. But
Neil, can you give us that? I believe if it's owned by the university, it does not. Is that right, Neil?
So and I just don't know if I'm going down a road I shouldn't go. But since we're down it, we'll just keep on trucking and see how it goes.
You don't have to. I don't want to put you in a tough spot here.
Well, it's an important conversation to have. I just need to be very careful to navigate that I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't say in public, which, we're in public. Nice go, Smith.
and on the record.
On the record, yeah. Well, can't we delete this stuff?
It lives on the internet in perpetuity forever.
Oh, can't delete that stuff.
So tread cautiously, you're my friend.
Yeah. I had a conversation with somebody that's connected to the university, and we'll leave names out of it, and they were like, struggling with understanding this. And I said, look, just imagine if you were Ford or whatever Fortune 500 company, and you were the driving engine for employment. I said, look, Keith Smith wouldn't be here if UVA wasn't here. You wouldn't be here if UVA wasn't here.
That's very true.
Judah wouldn't be here if UVA wasn't here. UVA is the heartbeat of the economic engine.
The city of UVA.
So speaking of which, I'm working on an economic development roundtable between Charlottesville and Albemarle. It's going to be a good show.
Great.
The two directors I got agreed.
You got Roger and Chris.
There you go.
Excellent.
So if Keith and Jerry created this company that was the heartbeat of the employment in this area, by the fact that we've created this entity and did this, I take responsibility for what happens outside.
Yeah.
You just can't work in it. And that was the conversation I had. I said, and they understand that and they agree to that. What the pushback I typically get is, well, we just can't write blank checks. And I get it. You can't. And my comment always is, I'm not asking you for one. I'm asking for you to participate. And that's it. And they really are. I will tell you, and again, I'm really in slippery slopes here, but they get it. I'm going to keep on pushing the rock uphill. I may have just got fired off of the committee today. But, to be honest with you.
I don't think you got fired.
No, to be honest with you, the truth hurts, and they need to hear the truth. And I will tell you, because you can see everybody's faces when I raised my digital hand, and I started off, okay, guys, I'm going to get on my soapbox. And you can see everybody's face goes, oh, no. But they want to help. They just don't know how.
Bill McChenzie, with the switch... Here's Bill's comment. Bill, you make good comments on this show.
Thank you for keeping me out of complete hot water.
I figured we should change change where we're going here. You're my friend. Bill says this. With the switch from petrol to hybrid and electric, people will still want to use private vehicles instead of public transportation infrastructure. That's a good comment from Bill.
So great comment, Bill. When I was putting these numbers together at 0 Dark 30 this morning, I literally was thinking that. And we've had this conversation before. I was thinking about, because Yonna and I are in the market to get at least one EV. I'm going to probably do it next year. In our morning cup of coffee conversation, I said, well, honey, if I get an EV and you have your Subaru, are we going to keep this one car commitment that we made to go into town? And the answer was yes, but I'm not so sure if we have a conversation a year and a half from now, we aren't taking two vehicles again. So it's not changing the impact on the road.
That's what
it's going
Bill's
to be.
Point is.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, and it's coming. Every manufacturer's in it.
So do we think in crystal ball that electric vehicles will cannibalize public transportation? Meaning you can drive further with less money out of pocket in an electric vehicle.
You can buy a Bolt right now for the same price you can buy an entry-level car.
So you can buy, that's Chevy.
Yeah,
Chevy Bolt or Volt?
B.
Okay, so a Chevy Bolt with a B, the same price as an entry-level car.
Plus you get a $7,500 tax credit.
You get a $7,500 tax credit, and you can go considerably further, you pay less to drive it.
Yeah, you pay considerably less to drive.
Considerably
Oh,
less
no,
to drive.
by the way, the wear and tear is
less.
There's less, right?
Better for the environment.
Better for the
So
environment.
does the electric vehicle popularity, and it's still less than 10% market share of America's electric vehicles. Shocking number, less than 10%. But as electric vehicles become more ubiquitous, will it cannibalize the need for public transportation? In areas like Charlottesville, it's certainly not going to in like a city like New York, but an area like Charlottesville with urban sprawl.
Yeah. So this whole conversation we're having about, park and rides, so hold it, the market just added a new piece of candy into the thing, right? Where now, hold it, I'm going to buy a $30,000 car or a $25,000 car or whatever it is a couple of years down the road for it on this kind of great stuff, and I'm getting 250 miles per charge. We just proved the numbers. I'm not doing that much on top of that stuff. I'm good on all of a sudden I feel good because I'm good on the environment, right? But all of a sudden now, Keith and Yonna are going to be taking two vehicles in again. And I don't have the 8,000, I might have 6,000, right? Because there's some wear and tear and, so forth and so on.
This is a good comment from Spencer Sherling. Spencer Sherling says, you guys have watched the entire show. It's been a good one. Another good one.
Thank you.
Spencer says, you've gone the entire show without discussing the impact of COVID and the Delta variant has had on public transportation. Who really wants to get on public transportation right now with this Delta being so contagious?
Absolutely.
Well said, Spencer.
Yeah.
We have gone the whole show without talking about how COVID and Delta will impact public transportation.
Spot on. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, it will. That comment, along with Bill's comment, and I never really thought through the
electric vehicle
the
impact.
EV impact. We talked about this quite extensively about the Waynesboro market. That what happens in the Waynesboro market, at least from my experience from '87, and we've got two experts coming in 2 weeks from now on the Monday morning market monitor. Monday market monitor. Thank you, sir. When gas starts climbing up to $4 a gallon, which it's kind of getting there.
Yeah, it's like, was it $3.10? Depending on where you fill up, $3.09?
Let's call it $3 for right
Yeah.
now. As that starts climbing up, this whole 6,000, this whole 8,000, all this money from folks driving further away than 15 minutes on the other side of the mountain, right? 15 miles, on the other side of the mountain. Now all of a sudden I have an EV that can get me back and forth. I plug it into my house. I'm paying, not too much money for my electricity to charge it and all that stuff. And if you're really sharp, and like, Mrs. Smith wants me to do, is we put electrical solar panels on the roof. It's even less to charge it. But it's an interesting thought. I think this whole conversation with the EVs might impact us quite substantially.
Quentin Beckham makes very good comments here. Quentin, I'm going to get to yours comments
He's
here in a matter of
EV.
moments.
He's an EV driver.
That's what he's talking about. He's talking about firsthand experience. Really good comments coming in from Quentin. In a matter of moments, we'll get to him. Bill McKenzie, petrol taxes pay for roads. How will electric vehicles contribute to that?
Freaking.
Spencer adds, electric vehicles are absolutely going to cannibalize public transportation. As the cost of electric vehicles become more tangible, folks will not ride public transportation, especially with Delta being so present.
Yeah.
Quentin Beckham, here we're going to get to Quentin's here.
This EV thing is a huge component to it.
Totally agree with all of this. I think there are definitely moments of shift that can make the economics challenging. The law of unintended consequences is a real thing. All of the paths forward will have some effects that are unexpected. Some for those will be good and most will not, but the transition may still be needed. Quinn says, I have an electric versus a hybrid for over 2 years now. I just finished a road trip to Burlington. Is that Vermont?
Mm-hmm.
To Burlington, Vermont and back. And it was very doable and a comfortable trip. I think there are some commercial partnerships that are making that more of a reality for electric vehicles. Sheetz has many EV chargers along the interstates now. Walmart has also partnered with Electrify America.
Yeah.
Hopefully our local travel also embraces this. I haven't had to stop for gasoline in over 2 years. I love it. I got what works out of 78 miles per gallon when you relate what I paid for in electricity to the price of gas at Kroger here in town.
So how much was that gallon per mile? How many miles per gallon?
78 miles per gallon.
Yeah. I've heard different calculations where that was well over 100, certain vehicles. Look, but the question was, will that impact public transport? And I got to tell you, I think it will.
Yeah, definitely.
The more I think about it, I think that's going to be more impactful in the law of the law that Quentin was talking about. I can't get it out there today. How this will affect it. I think it's going to be huge. Actually.
Law of unintended consequences.
Thank you for doing that.
It's going to be.
Thank you for keeping my words in order today.
It's going to be quite a mindset shift.
Well, but Keith and Yonna are thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. We're
the EVs aren't going to get less market share. They're going to get more market share. We know that. And if electric vehicles get more market share, and the price is easier or approachable or less, more people are going to buy them. More people are going to drive them.
So this goes back to the conversation I had with the traffic engineer and the VDOT. So now, let's say EVs, 3 or 4 years from now, EVs are 25% or whatever the heck the number is. This fact that folks are driving 30 minutes out in versus over here at Spring Hill Village, where they're only 5 miles in it, they're still going to be on the roads. I never really thought about this, and that's what I love about this show. I never really thought about the impact of EV on public transport.
Quentin says Rivian is a new electric vehicle-only car maker.
Yep.
It's making vans that are all electric for Amazon.
Yep.
The market is going to force this over time, whether we support it in government or not.
Yep.
That's a good comment there. That's a good comment.
But, of course, we'll see buses going all electric. We'll see that, which will be all great for the environment, right? But the conversation we've been having today is, affordable housing and the cost on traveling to do that. I do want to make a pivot. If we got time to do that.
Yeah, we do.
You've asked me a question more than once. Would Albemarle County kind of keep up with Charlottesville and its missing middle and its upzoning? Did you follow what they?
Yeah, Crozet.
With Crozet?
You want to give them a recap?
I'll let you do that. I'm trying to clear my throat here.
Sure. Well, the missing middle housing, in a nutshell, very well could be coming to Crozet.
Yeah, so what they did, a vote of 4-2, is they left this in the Crozet comprehensive plan. So it hasn't been a fully vetted and gone through with it, but there was a first step action that this is as close to getting the missing middle to happen than Charlottesville is at the moment, right? They left a block in this master plan that allows this upzoning or this missing middle. And now it has a bunch of process to go through yet before it becomes actual completed comprehensive plan, then has to go through the zoning process and so forth and so on. But that was a huge step forward kudos to Albemarle County Board of Supervisors.
Do you, when do we get to the point, devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show, when do we get to the point where you're starting to consider density issues and access issues to Crozet? There's two ways to get to Crozet.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right?
250 up and 64.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
250 up and 64.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you guys have tried to get in and out of Crozet when there's been an accident on the Intrastate or on 250? Turns into a little bit of an issue.
I personally can talk about that from Lake Monticello, but go ahead.
The density is upticking in Crozet.
So one of the struggles I have with Crozet, there's no real defined area of Crozet. So if I do a search for Crozet, it's kind of all over the place. Actually, in order for me to search for a client, I actually have to put schools in it.
Yeah, right.
In order to get a better.
I think that's how you would do it.
Well, normally I would just, like Lake Monticello, be Lake Monticello.
So what are you putting in Western Albemarle High School in the search function?
Yeah. And that makes the difference on it. But I'm curious how many people are currently in whatever this radius is that we call. I haven't had a chance to do the numbers on it. I know Lake Monticello's numbers, right? And to go along that, you're 100% right. So there's basically three ways into Charlottesville from Lake Monticello. Come in 53. 616, or you can go up to 15, go all the way to Zion's Crossroads and come in. But I can't tell you, since 1987, numerous times, tree down, an accident.
Yeah, it makes it extremely difficult.
It's the reason why I always budget in an extra 15 minutes, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't,
sure,
to come in because otherwise I got to turn around and go back. So that's roughly 4,000 houses times 2. Is 8,000. There's roughly 10,000 people plus or minus in Lake Monticello in a 4,500 acre subdivision in that area. So that's a real thing, right? There's only two, and these are not I-64. This is not.
These are more back roads.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, eventually we're going to have to consider the increased density and only 2 roads in and out for Crozet.
Mm-hmm. But are we at 10,000 people in Crozet? I don't know.
Yeah, there's more than 10,000 people in Crozet.
I wouldn't know that number.
Population of Crozet? Let's do a.
But it's just hard. I mean, if you use Neil's numbers.
Okay, I'm just Googling population of Crozet, Virginia. I'd say it's at least 30. You're right.
I don't think it is.
Crozet population, according to Google in 2019, was 7,159 people.
Yeah, so it's probably close. It's probably close now. You're right. If it was 7,000.
I honestly thought it would be more than that.
No, I didn't think it was much more than Lake Monticello. But I would.
So that shows you how dense Lake Monticello is.
Mm-hmm.
So 2019 population of Crozet is 7,159 people. Mm-hmm. That shocks me. I thought it would be higher.
That's the U.S. Census?
Yeah, I'm going to go to, trying to get, doesn't that surprise you?
Not really, no. It doesn't surprise me at all. That's how it feels anyway. It feels somewhere between 8 and 10,000. Lake Monticello is 8 to 10,000, depending on how you count it and how you put in are you counting the surrounding subdivisions, so forth and so on. So, it's, what circle you're doing it. But I would say that Crozet and Lake Monticello is probably on par. Pretty darn close, anyway.
I just learned something right there. I hope you guys learned something.
Well, that's the reason why I fought so hard to get that roundabout on 53, because there's 16,000 cars a day. Let's say that number again. 16,000 cars a day that run through that roundabout, both ways. That's a lot.
That's a lot of cars.
That's a lot of cars.
That's a lot of cars. All right, that's the show today. Today's the Tuesday edition of Real Talk. Friday, what you got?
So we've got Neil and Sean. This is going to be a lot of fun. I put on my seatbelt and see where the show goes. We have nothing on the topic. I think
Friday's show is going to be good. Neil Williamson and Sean Tubbs. Put it on your calendar now.
And it's always good. We always try to get a show length award. Set record on that stuff. But yeah, thank you. As always, I love these shows, these Tuesday shows. I kind of threw an idea out, and we just kind of rolled with it. Even though I've got a bit of allergies going, it's I think we're doing good.
Mustache Dan Pettit, great show. Spencer Sherling, fantastic show.
Spencer's a rock star. Thank you, sir.
Jason Burke, aren't we already in need of road and parking expansion now? Wondering where all these new cars are going. Good show today from Jason Burke. Mm-hmm. Jason Burke is a realtor in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Jason Burke is a realtor
so he's
in Los
watching
Angeles.
In Los Angeles.
And
right?
a Los Angeles real estate investor.
Was
at one time the owner of Little John's.
Oh.
On the UVA corner.
That's right. Thank you.
And Mr. Jason Burke is watching
Thank
the
you,
show
Jason.
from
Thank
LA.
You. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to actually respond to you, Jason. Thank you for watching. This show is presented by Yes Realty Partners. Yes Realty Partners. We're live on 15 Facebook pages and every social media platform known to mankind. If you need help in the buying and selling of your home, Yes Realty Partners. Honest, approachable, and very straightforward. Oh, it's another Jason Burke. Gotcha, Jason Burke. There's another Jason Burke in the area that's from Charlottesville to LA as a realtor. This is a different Jason Burke. Sorry about that, Jason Burke. Got you confused with the other one from the area that's now in LA.
Just got a notice. Cherry Avenue is closed down. There's some power lines down. Anybody who's local.
Message. We just got a message coming into the Batman hotline over here.
My
Cherry Avenue is closed. What is it?
Mrs. Smith just texted me. So Cherry Avenue is closed. There's a power line down.
Cherry Avenue closed, power line down. Cherry Avenue closed, power line down. Guys, thank you for joining us today. I Love CVille show is in 45 minutes.
What do you got on?
You got Tuesday, Alex Irving.
Oh, Alex.
Yeah, I love when Alex comes on the show. I learned quite a bit. We'll see you in 45 minutes, guys. Take care. Very good show.
Thank you, sir.